Hey everybody, this is Puka bringing you the finals of the Sarasota, Florida City Championships, another tournament from the Florida Marathon. Now we actually have two people that have already made the finals at a marathon tournament already. On the left we have Luke Reed playing the six corners, big basic, however you want to put it, just a bunch of big basic Pokemon in a deck. Facing off against Michael Pramawat and his Magnezone Eelektrik, aka the Thunderdome. So, quite a unique matchup we have here between two great players, two Worlds level competitors. Luke actually did make top 16 at Worlds the previous year, and Michael, of course, does have that second place from the World Championships in 2010. I apologize as the camera is kind of swinging around here. We'll get that fixed in a second. But Michael also did make top 32 at Worlds this past year. Unfortunately, they only took a top 16. But that's a story for another day. So, Luke here has a decision to make. Usually you want to open with Virizion, that is your preferred starter with the Six Corners deck. However, he knows what Michael is playing, and he knows that every Pokemon in his deck is weak to fighting, so he decides, you know what? Oh, and there's Sammy Sakum waving to the camera. He knows that all of Michael's Pokemon are weak to fighting, so he is just going to go ahead and charge forward with Terrakion and hope he can win that way. I don't know if I agree with this decision, but he's deciding to become extremely aggressive with Terrakion, maybe catcher out some Magnemites, and just kind of overrun Michael before he sets up. Now the danger of this is that really Terrakion is the only thing that's good against Magnezone Eelektrik. Your other Pokemon are not nearly as good in the later stages of the game. For example, Virizion. Horrible once that deck sets up. Cards like Zekrom or even Thundurus will do very well against it. Your outrage Pokemon like Kyurem, Zekrom, etc. Those aren't going to do very well because Magnezone knocks them out in one hit with Lost Burn. So, you really want to use Virizion early and maybe save Terrakion for later. That way, you don't have to use your first Terrakion to get cheap knockouts, and then you lose one early on. You might run out of stuff later. But we'll see if this actually comes back to bite Luke in the butt, or if it is just going to pay dividends because he'll be able to be so aggressive. Now the important thing is that Michael did go first. We see he played a Collector. He now has two Magnemites, a Dynamo, and he's going to Eek with Cleffa, so his hand wasn't too great, but he does get a fresh hand. And he's also under no pressure early on because the Six Corners deck does not put any pressure on the first turn. Most of the attackers take 2 energy unless you're using the dragons like Reshiram, Zekrom, Kyurem, which have Outrage. You can use a double colors to fuel that, but even that will not knock you out. Will not knock out a Cleffa or anything else on Michael's field, so he'll be safe for at least one turn. Now the important part here is that I said everything costs 2 energy. They're not going to be able to attack just for 1 energy. This means that energy attachments are going to be the name of the game. That means Luke needs to attach an energy every turn or else he's going to lose. And if you're Michael, you want to win by simply knocking out the things that have energy attached to them, because you know he can't attack unless he has 2 energy on the field. And there's no energy acceleration in the Six Corners deck. It doesn't play Electrode Prime or anything like that. So, you know, you just knock out the thing with energy and eventually they run out of gas. So this is going to be kind of a battle between how fast can Michael set up and how fast can Luke take knockouts. And can Luke get far enough ahead where once Michael sets up, it won't matter. Now, we do see Michael, looks like he stayed asleep with Cleffa. I'm not sure if he actually flipped, but it looks like he did. Nope, actually now he's flipping. And now he woke up. Alright, I was wondering, that looked a little suspicious. So, he did wake up. And he has a turn 2 Magnezone, which is huge. He will pretty much be stabilized for the whole game now. Well, actually, he has sort of a window to get his second Magnezone out. The key to beating a Magnezone Eelektrik deck is actually to knock out the Magnezone, because that is the draw power of the deck. Magnetic Draw, it's a very, very good Poke Power that just allows you to refill your hand up to 6 every turn. You can play cards like Junk Arm to play your hand down very low, and then you magnetic draw to fill your hand back up. So it actually cuts out more supporter draw cards in order to get this Magnezone into play, so it's very reliant on the Magnezone. Now if you leave the player without any Magnezones in play, they could just kind of fizzle out and not really get anything in the rest of the game, and they can kind of lose that way. So for Luke, his objective has to be knockout Magnezones, and Terrakion does a good job of that. It's just a matter of will he be able to do it multiple times? Will he have enough Terrakions to knock out the Magnezones? And it's going to be a battle to see who knocks out the other person's Pokemon first, honestly. And so Michael sends up Thundurus and he uses Charge. This will just be to get more energy into play, so that even if Thundurus gets knocked out, then Eelektrik can use Dynamotor to get those back from the discard pile and attach them to his Pokemon. Okay, now we do see a catcher from Luke. He's going to bring up Magnezone. Not sure how I feel about this, because honestly, doing 60 damage to a Magnezone with Retaliate isn't the greatest thing in the world. He does want to kind of keep it there to make sure it gets knocked out eventually, but if Michael has a switch, that's pretty much a wasted catcher. And Luke is kind of making a decision. He has a Shaman, a Junk Arm, and a Juniper. Does he want to wait for the Juniper? Nope, he's just going to go ahead and draw his 7. It's a tough decision, and ooh, that doesn't look like a great hand. So he puts an Eviolite on the Terrakion. Now, I think maybe a better decision would have been to catcher out a Tynamo, just take a quick prize, but he decided to go for the Magnezone, and Michael happens to have the switch, so things aren't looking good for Luke right now. Now, fortunately, his Terrakion is not going to get knocked out this turn. We do see an N from Michael, so we're both going to shuffle in and draw 6 here. The bright side to this is that Luke will still have energy on his Pokemon. You know, if Michael were able to get an Eelektrik and then Lost Burn 3 energy to knock out the Terrakion, then Luke would be in a world of hurt. He would have no energy in play, no response to really anything Michael would do at that point. But Michael did already attach the Lightning to his active Thundurus, so we are most likely going to just see a Disaster Volt for 60 on the Terrakion. And this is kind of why the Eviolite on the Terrakion was kind of a curious thing to see. He already played the Rainbow on it, so a Thundurus will now 2-hit knockout with Disaster Volt anyway. So it's kind of strange, but maybe he was fearing Zekrom or something like that, so it's hard to tell. Eviolite is not the most useful thing in the world in this matchup, just because it does not affect how many energy Magnezone has to use to knock your Pokemon out with Lost Burn. So maybe he's just putting it down, realizing, hey, this isn't probably going to be useful, so I'll just go ahead and attach it somewhere so I don't draw later. Now here is another Collector, and this is going to be very telling of how the rest of the game is going to go. How many Terrakions does Luke have left? How many does he play in the first place? But how many does he have in his deck? And it looks like he's going to Collector for one more Terrakion here. And if he only has one more, I have to think Michael is a huge favorite in this matchup. You know, Terrakion is the only real Pokemon that's going to threaten you and kind of knock out your Magnezone efficiently in terms of energy costs and in prizes. So if he doesn't have more than one more Terrakion, I think Michael's just probably going to win this game because he's set up. Now, once again, Luke has a decision to make. He has a Junk Arm in his hand, so he could grab Catcher. He can knock out that Magnezone if he wants to. The bad part is that he would have to attach a third energy to this Terrakion. And then, once this Terrakion gets knocked out, which surely it will, it only has 60 hit points left, he's going to lose all of his energy in play. And he's going to be back to square one, and he won't be able to put any pressure back on Michael anytime soon. And he's probably just going to fall way too far behind to win the game. However, he does decide to go for the Magnezone, knowing that this is the life of Michael's deck. If he can take out Magnezone, he can win the game. Eventually, Michael will just fizzle out. But it looks like he does have the resources to get another Magnezone into play if he really wants to. Do see a Dynamotor onto the Thundurus. He's going to attach the energy onto Magnezone. Now I see a collector and a communicator. Oh, actually we see a judge. I thought I saw a collector and a junk arm, but I don't think actually Michael's played a communication yet, so never mind on that. We do see a judge, which is a rarely seen card nowadays, now that N has been released, but judge is still a very effective method of disrupting your opponent. It does not really hurt yourself because you play Magnezone, and you know, it just kind of works. You know, it's not as devastating as N is in the later stages of the game, but in the earlier stages of the game, it's actually far more disruptive than N would be. Putting your opponent at 4 as opposed to 6 or 5 is a world of difference, and we'll see if this will impact Luke at all. And we see a Pokegear for absolutely nothing, and yeah, this could be a big deal. You know, on a supporter reliant deck like the Six Corners deck, you know, it lives on these turn-to-turn supporter drops. You know, Oak's New Theory, Juniper. It looks like Luke also has N in his hand, which he's a little weary about playing, but he will go ahead and play it. These decks like this have no real engine to fall back on. There's no Magnezone to magnetic draw. I don't think the deck even plays Cleffa. There's really nothing. You know, some decks would play Ninetales, stuff like that. This deck has none of that. It just depends on whether or not you have supporters in your hand and whether or not you keep drawing into your supporters. Because if you don't draw into one, eventually you're going to fizzle out. Now, it does have Virizion, which has double draw, but that's not the most reliant thing in the world. And now Luke is in this horrible spot where he's realized, yeah, I don't have many cards, I don't have any energy in play, so I'm going to switch and double draw, which, you know, 4 turns into the game, double draw is not the best thing in the world to be using. And he probably realizes, okay, this game is going south. My opponent got set up way too quickly for me to win this game. And we also saw a Sage, which got Michael a communication and a Magnemite to get a Magnezone into play. There it is. And he's just right back on track. We're probably going to see another Disaster Volt this turn, I would assume, because, well, you don't want to Lost Burn too quickly, otherwise you could just run out of energy. Because when Magnezone uses Lost Burn, it has to send the energy to the Lost Zone, which is no good. Those energy are gone for the rest of the game. So yes, he did attach to the Thunderous, puts down another Magnemite. This is a crucial thing to do, because you always need to have a backup Magnezone when you're playing this deck. You need to realize, okay, if this Magnezone does get catchered and knocked out somehow, my draw is completely cut off for the rest of the game. So he makes the right move, putting the Magnemite down and preparing for his next Magnezone. It's actually very crucial to have at least the option to get a second Magnezone at all times, just because of Pokemon Catcher and how strong it is. So here's an Oak's New Theory from Luke. You know, I'm really not sure what he's actually looking for anymore. There's not a whole lot that would help him. His main problem is he just doesn't have energy in play, so he has to buy time, try to get energy into play. Unfortunately, he had to discard that Shaman early on, so he's probably looking for a Super Rod to get that back. You know, anything to help him just get more energy into play so he can start using Terrakion again. Which, like I said earlier, ouch, there's another Judge. So here we see Judge coming into play. But he just needs to get energy into play, and he needs to attack with Terrakion because nothing else can really keep up with all these big Pokemon that Michael's thrown at him. So we do see Luke actually got quite a nice hand off of that. He's got 2 supporters. Looking good. But, you know, he's just not going to have the energy attachments. Outrage, not very effective when A, your opponent has the prize lead, and B, Lost Burn can just knock out those things in one hit. Usually with the Six Corners deck, you are the one taking the first prize. So you plan on just taking the first prize with Virizion and maybe whatever else you started with. You know, you just take a quick prize early on, and then you just kind of push up dragons and say, okay, you can attack me, but then I'm going to outrage you and probably get another prize. And you just kind of win a prize trade-off from there. But against Magnezone Eelektrik, you don't really trade off. You just kind of get knocked out in one hit, and you have to outrace them before they get set up, which didn't really happen this game, unfortunately for Luke. And he does draw his Super Rod, which is a pretty big deal. He'll be able to get Terrakion and Shaman back into his deck. So, that'll be nice. But I don't know. He's down a prize at this point. He's only got that double colorless in play. He can attach another energy this turn. That would be good. But, you know, Michael just might be too far ahead. He's got the Magnezone out. He's got an Eelektrik. He's got 5 energy in play. He'll be able to catch her and knock out any Terrakion that would come down. So really the only way that Terrakion would be able to come out is some sort of a Shaman knockout. And Luke actually thinks, alright, I can't win this game. Let's move on to another one. And he scoops up his cards. He realizes how poor the situation really was. And we're going to move on to a quick game 2. So that was game 1. Thanks for watching. And we'll be right back with Game 2.